Hey guys, before we get into things, please subscribe to our channel and make sure you turn on notifications so you know every time we post. And also, head over to our social pages, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram so you can see clips and chat wrestling with us. But now, let's get into the video.
Well, hello, everybody. C2 Wrestling back again. Monday Night Raw live. Just kidding. Taped from Saudi Arabia. Crown Jewel weekend, if you will call it, is over. Good. It's
Yeah.
time to move on from it. Raw was good though. It was solid even for a tape show. I thought it was pretty good. Uh, Not a whole lot to get into. Again, being that it was taped. But what did you think about tonight's show?
It was a solid show. I mean, for knowing every
Mhm.
outcome, you know,
Yeah,
it-
yeah,
it's still, I mean, I kind of correlate it to if you're going to watch a football game and you know who wins, you might still watch it to see any cool plays, but it can only be so
yeah,
good if you know what happens, especially for
yeah,
if it's like a pay-per-view. Raw a little different, obviously. But I thought it
yeah,
was a decent show. I didn't think it was bad.
yeah. I didn't think it was bad either, but I do agree. I'm putting on going on Twitter and I'm looking up, George Pickens highlights, or I'm typing in, Bronson Reed tsunami or whatever it is on the tape show if I can't catch it at the time of. But it was a good show. I do kind of want to get right into something that I just really like that was in the main event. I know it's just right off the bat, but Bronson Reed coming out after the loss at Crown Jewel, and I thought in what I saw in spoilers that he came out, attacked Seth Rollins, and left. I did not realize he attacked everybody. That I think is great. I think that only furthers him as like this monster again. They're trying to paint. It's a little bit of recovery, in my opinion, for the loss at Crown Jewel.
I have to say that tsunami he gave Damian Priest, Priest was not selling. That was one of the most authentic
Yeah,
reactions. You could
yeah,
tell. I watched that. That hurt me.
yeah. You go, oh
That
god, start
was
gripping.
that was that was like a squash. Like,
Yeah, I mean Bronson Reed coming off that top rope, man, that's a big boy. He is a
yeah.
big man coming down on you, and they land proper ways and things like that. But not every time. Sometimes there's some bad hits. Some botches people will call it. I don't quite know if I call it a botch, but yeah, he got hit pretty good.
Yeah, there's really no light way to do a tsunami, if we're
Yeah,
being
exactly.
honest. I mean,
Yeah.
Bronson can only take so much of the brunt of it away,
Mhm.
with a little bit landing on his knees. But yeah, I did enjoy that. I did like them kind of doing the story of Dom kind of escaping it all to try to sneak his
Yeah.
way. Because in my opinion, the way things have been booked, if Dom gets hit by a tsunami, he should like probably break in half. So keeping him
Yeah.
clear of that made perfect sense to me. Again, I
Mhm.
stressed it over Crown Jewel. I was not a fan of Bronson Reed losing against
Yes.
Seth Rollins. It's still like this definitely helped. Like I'll say that it definitely helped
Yeah.
having him clear everybody out. But then a piece of me, like I'm watching it and I'm like, should have just been in the damn match.
Yeah, could have just made it a fatal five way, to be honest with you, and had him and Rollins like brawl it out while the match finishes. Who knows? They're clearly leading towards another Bronson Rollins match. Leads me to ask you, what's the match? Not when it happens, but what type of match? What are they going
Do,
to next?
do they go last man standing? I don't know. I think the issue is, well,
Mm,
not issue, but the interesting aspect of it is with Owens and Orton also having a non-title rivalry. I know theirs is
yeah.
more story than Bronson and Seth. You're not going to do the same exact, gimmick match for either of them, but both kind of deserve gimmick matches
Mm,
with how the stories have gone. I don't know. I would like to see it though be at like Survivor Series or Saturday Night's main event. To me, if you really want to, you know, level up Bronson Reed, don't have him beat Rollins on Raw. Like that, if anything,
mhm.
that makes it even worse if his win against Rollins just happens on Raw and he lost a crown jewel. Like that makes things even worse to me.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I do with that believe though that they are leading up to him beating Rollins at a big PLE, a big pay per view. Survivor Series fits the bill to me. I'm not going to say no to Saturday night's main event, but I think they need to get to it at this point with Bronson and Seth, and then move on to the next thing with maybe both of them, really. So, Crown Jewel over. Moving on to Survivor Series. I want the rematch there. If there's going to be a gimmick behind it, would you have to imagine there is some sort of stipulation? Last man standing maybe fits the bill, but didn't they just do that with Braun
Yeah,
Strowman and
that's
Bronson
true.
Reed? You know,
That
so
is
it's right
true.
off the back of that. Maybe it's just like a falls count anywhere type match. You know, maybe along those lines. Do you go bold and go like I quit match or something? Like, how do you add some spice to it and not copycat what they're potentially going to do with Orton and Owens? It's tough.
I don't. Maybe you could even go in a cage or something. A cage isn't outlandish with them kind of brawling everywhere. That's not
Yeah,
far fetched.
yeah. That
Um,
doesn't. That leads me to say the fight pit. That'd be interesting.
that'd be very interesting.
I like that
Um,
match actually. I think that's a good gimmick match, good stipulation. That it's tough to come up with new matches. You know, when you come up with a good concept, I like the fight pit.
yeah, and I'm not saying every vicious feud needs a gimmick match, but some of them, the way they go, like how do you not have a gimmick match for a Rollins versus Bronson? But to not bury the lead on the main event, we do have a new number one contender, Damian
Yes.
Priest. Will be rematching Gunther. I will have to say, I am a fan of the non-automatic rematches anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I know this is like more on the random side, but them saving the rematch of Priest versus Gunther, if it happened right away, to me it just doesn't hit the same. Granted, I think Balor might cost Priest again. I think that's probably the
Yeah.
logical outcome because the Balor Priest feud is definitely not over.
Mm-hmm.
But if they just rematched right away, like that's just so wrestling where it's like, oh, I beat the champion. Now we'll rematch. I beat him again. And sometimes it's they have a third and the guy wins again. It's just so unnecessary. I love that it's been a bit of a gap. This Priest Gunther feud will feel fresh again.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, it'll be just one match again. It feels like it makes more sense. And it also feels like Priest is bigger right now than he was when he lost at SummerSlam. Like that little bit of time helped him kind of elevate to the next level and Gunther to an extent. So this match feels bigger to me
Mm-hmm.
now than if it just happened right away.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think it just shows how good they have been storytelling lately. Again, everything is intertwined, everything is working together. You're able to do this now and not right after the original Priest Gunther match because of all these intertwined stories. It makes it as if you're able to take a hold of something new coming around. You know, Priest loses to Gunther, and you would think rematch clause they go right into another thing, but Judgment Day screwed him. They have a little bit of a holdover with the Judgment Day Priest feud. Leads back up to this a few months later, a few weeks later, whatever it is. I like it as well. I think it's great that's happening now and not right after the fact. Now, if we're being honest, Gunther's retaining, you know, whenever this match happens. I think it is kind of built for a Monday Night Raw. I don't know if it fits the bill for a Survivor Series, considering we're probably getting two War Games matches. Whatever else gets on that card, who knows? But Gunther probably goes over Priest. I like Priest a lot, though. We're both Priest fans here. Him winning this match is good for him, though, too. Again, it kind of does put him back in that spotlight. He was maybe in a little bit more before this face turn and this little blip of him not being champion, not in the main title card anymore. I like the rematch now. I think Balor, Judgment Day, probably does screw him one more time. We get maybe that rematch, maybe just the two of them, everyone's banned. But that's another potential gimmick match. You know, it's another like I quit last man standing match. So how do you play it around the Owens Orton and the other feuds going on?
Also, great finish to the match. Very
Yes, great
smooth,
finish. Yep.
you know, made sense. The perfect transition of catching Dom off the top straight into the South of Heaven, I thought
Mm-hmm.
was one of the best South of Heavens we've seen from Priest and also from Dom selling it. That was such a smooth finish that I had to mention that. But we are getting Priest versus Gunther again. I don't see it main eventing any shows, but I think it'll be a solid match. I mean, their first story heated up very quick. And speaking of things heating up very quick, we have the Bloodline story.
Yes.
And we have the next advancement, Sami Zayn in the ring with Jay and Jimmy. Sami has been so crucial to bringing back saying the quiet part out loud and saying what all of us are thinking and wondering why it's not being said
Hmm.
out loud using logic like Owens
Yeah.
normally does. Flat out saying, Jimmy, why don't you like trust me? You're the one who shouldn't be trusted. Like laying it all out for a story that we have said has quickly picked up. They're getting there by using Sammy's logic to make it feel like it's okay with how quick they've moved things. But I'll say, man, I do not want SmackDown a four-way hug kumbaya. That just in what 4 days time, it's all figured out. That will
Yeah.
not do it for me.
Yeah, that will not do it for me either. The only way something like that maybe works for me on this SmackDown is if, maybe they do that. Maybe they have some kumbaya moment in the ring, but then maybe backstage, get in the car on the way leaving the arena, something. Maybe that's where we get Roman talking to just Jimmy on the side, or maybe Jimmy and Jay, and they all make a collective, like, we're going to keep an eye on him. So there is to the viewer that rift still. They're kind of duping Sami again like they once had. Not that they're heels or not that Jay even is. Maybe he in the long run takes the side of Sami and stays face. I expect him to be face for the foreseeable future. That guy's over the moon, but they have a lot of avenues they could go. This very well, though, too, as much as I love it, might really just be like a one off, like, Sami wrestles with them for war games. Now we're just into something again. Where do you go after this? But for the time being, this is fun stuff. I like it. I'm looking forward to the next few weeks with this Bloodline story.
Yeah, and this was a promo that you mentioned when we know the result and you go on Twitter, you see it. This I didn't see the promo. I knew they had a promo.
Yeah.
I knew the gist of it. And it was one that when I watched it, it was much better than the text did it justice. And this is prime example of you have to watch the shows. You can't just read what happens on Twitter to really formulate an opinion. Because if I just went off of just seeing the reports of the promo, it would have been like, oh, okay, yeah, makes sense. Watching it, I was like, all right, this is a damn good promo. This, I'm already bought in. This is selling me even more on this. I'll be working during SmackDown, but it's like, as soon as I get out of work, that is something I need to see that segment. That is the must see segment for me for SmackDown now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the same thing where I saw a little bit about the show before the airing tonight, but I didn't know Bronson came out and attacked everybody. Again, I thought he just dragged Rollins and they were moving on to their feud. It's you got to watch the show, just like you said, to see it all, to understand it all. You can read up, you can see some stuff online, but if you're going to talk about it, you got to watch it.
There's one last thing I want to talk about with Monday Night Raw. There were advancements of stories.
Mm-hmm.
The Miz and Wyatt Six story enhanced a lot. The New Day stories really starting to heat up. We have Io Sky as the new number one contender for the women's title. But I have to finish this with a question for you. I know they
Uh,
were in Saudi.
yeah,
I know this was a taped show. But where the hell is Braun Breaker?
that's an interesting one. Yeah, that is an interesting one. It's funny because I was thinking about Braun before, but I never thought of him to the point of where is Braun Breaker?
He won
Yeah.
the title and he hasn't been on.
Yeah. Is he consoling Baron Corbin? I don't know. Is that what
Like
his
he
wolf
might
dog?
be.
He might be. That is interesting. You would think that. I mean, I guess the Intercontinental title has been pretty prominent on Raw leading up to Crown Jewel, so I get that match not being on the card. And I guess they figured it's only 2 hour Raw. We can probably just do this Raw without flying him out too. Maybe he just got the unlucky not on TV. Lucky I don't got to go to Saudi
He wasn't even
spot.
on last week after he won the title.
Oh yeah,
They
you're
they
right. He
prom
wasn't
they
even on last
promoted
week.
it.
Yes, you're right.
They promoted it like, oh, Jay and Braun Breaker. How
You're
will Jay
right.
respond now that he's dropped the title, whatever? And Braun just wasn't on the show.
Yeah, that's
And
interesting.
and we got like Jay bloodline story, so like that aspect was fine. And Jay talking about how
Yeah.
he got screwed out of the title. But did, did he get kidnapped by the Wyatt Six? Like, there's just I don't even know if they
I
even
mean,
mentioned him. Have they mentioned him?
I don't think so. That the non-mentioning of him leads me to believe maybe he has like a minor injury, so they took him off for a week or two, and maybe they're just letting it go by without it. I feel like if he wasn't injured and they were just keeping him off, just to keep him off, they didn't fit it in. They would still, there'd be mention of Jay Uso's back with the bloodline after losing Braun Breaker or whatever. That is an interesting thought. Where is Braun Breaker? There's Tommy Boy,
Yeah, there is Tommy Boy. He's
but
right.
where is Braun Breaker?
Yeah, we found one, but haven't found the other. So I guess I would assume with them coming back from Saudi and Monday Night Raw next week is the real kickstart to building towards Survivor Series. I know
Yeah.
we have potential matchups from this Raw, but next week you're back in the groove of things. You know the direction. SmackDown obviously is going to be huge. There's all of these stories. Now we're on like the fast track. We had mentioned Crown Jewel kind of feels like that exhibition. It was just like a whatever show to me, to be honest.
Yeah.
Getting back into the groove, like I'm like feeling like for SmackDown, it's like, all right, now we're through that little part. Now let's get excited. Now we know what we're building towards.
Yeah, again, this has just been kind of exhibition for a little bit, and even up to Survivor Series, there's a little bit of predictability of what we've been getting for a while, especially because the Bloodline is taking up a huge chunk of that show. So again, we got a couple more weeks going into some great stuff, and then after that, it's doors are fully open. We could be going anywhere from this point. We got Cody hinting online that nobody really knows what we're getting at Mania. They're going a totally crazy route. Who knows what's going to happen? There is a lot to look forward to with not only Raw, NXT this Wednesday, the ECW Arena, original ECW Arena, and then Friday Night SmackDown. There's also a lot going on. We'll see two rest. Come check us out. Twitter, X, Facebook, maybe. I don't even know. Instagram. No, Facebook. Yeah.
No, no, no,
Little
definitely not. No
outdated.
face.
Definitely not
But
Facebook.
turn on notifications here. Like the video, get
Yeah.
down in the comments. We want to know your thoughts. You excited for Survivor Series? You're gonna come hang out with us during Survivor Series? Hint, hint. What we're gonna do? We got some fun stuff coming up, so you need to turn on those notifications as I chew on my own tongue to know when we post, to know when we are on this channel, because we want to talk wrestling. That's all we want to do. We want to know where the hell is Braun Breaker?
Where the hell is Braun Breaker?